Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk once again about the future of Titanfall 2, but this time in regards to that barely announced featured modes public test server thing. Respawn talked a little bit about this within the Monarch's Reign DLC patch notes. And if I'm reading it right, if I'm understanding what their plan is, they want to use the featured modes playlist to actually test out upcoming changes in features, things that could potentially make their way into the base game. So you'd boot up Titanfall 2, you'd have all the standard game modes, you could play attrition, PvP, as the game currently exists. But if you wanted to test out the changes they might be working on, maybe for example, they've done some buffs to Scorch, maybe they did some nerfs to Ronin, maybe they balanced his sword block a little bit more, maybe they even had gone as far as to work on things like aim assist and slightly increasing the time to kill across different weapon platforms. Really big changes potentially that could shape and alter the future of Titanfall 2 multiplayer. That's where you would go test these things out. You could then provide feedback, let them know what you think, and maybe those things would eventually make it into the base game if the community was happy with how the changes were feeling. Number one, if that's actually what they're going to do, this is a big deal because it's something that will be available on all three platforms, not just the PC. Typically, when developers do public test servers, they can only run them on PC. They need access to a server where they can get updates very quickly. They can't wait for the sort of certification process that has to happen with all of the things that exist with consoles, like, you know, going through Microsoft and going through Sony classification. I don't know if there's a way to get around that by updating the featured modes playlist with changes like that, but maybe they found a way, and if they did, kudos to them, because that's a really intelligent solution to something that I think has been challenging developers for a very long time. The big thing here, though, is that unlike a game like Overwatch, where you can get away with not having it on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, Titanfall 2 absolutely needs this thing to exist on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. That is where the majority of the community exists. So if you want to tap in to the opinion, the feelings, and the thoughts of as many people playing Titanfall 2 as possible, you need to have it available on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So there's a lot of things I would like to see featured in that first iteration. I think changes to Scorch, experimenting with Scorch to really make him a more effective in Titan, even if that means reworking a lot of him. That is definitely one of those things. And I think Frothy did an outstanding video talking about what could happen with Scorched, what changes he might like to see. If you guys haven't checked that out already, I'll have it linked down in the pinned comment below. I agree with just about everything he's saying there. I want to see them take a risk, right? Do something to really modify the way Scorch functions from where he is right now to make him a more effective Titan at a high skill level when actually going up against other people who really know what they're doing with the other Titan. There are, however, two bigger things that would be on my personal list. Time to kill and aim assist. I've talked a little bit about increasing the time to kill in the past. I want to have a more detailed discussion about it today with a better example of what I mean and the value, the potential value of increasing time to kill for the core gunplay experience in Titanfall 2. Then we're going to talk about aim assist and how that can also be modified to once again improve the core gunplay experience in Titanfall 2 for people using controllers, whether it be on PC or on the Xbox One or PlayStation 4. So let's start by talking about increasing the time to kill. I talked about this in the past. Not a lot of people seem really heavy. They're not up with this idea. They can't dig it, man. You know what I'm saying? Can you dig it? Because I think I can dig it, and I hope you can dig it after you listen to what I have to say. I think a lot of people are going into this head first and getting very linear about it. They're just starting to think about other games where the time to kill is longer. They're not thinking about just looking at Titanfall 2 and making modifications to what exists. A lot of people are like, I don't want it to be Halo. It could never be Halo, all right? That time to kill would never work in a game like Titanfall 2. It's a completely different experience. Headshots and critical shots aren't nearly as important in Titanfall 2 as they are in a game like Halo. This is not Halo, all right? We're not looking at boosting the time to kill to the extent that it is in Halo. We're just talking about what exists in Titanfall 2 and how can we expand that a little bit? How can we draw out engagements and how can we reward players for precision and accuracy over the ability to be first to fire? All right, now first to fire is a concept that is important regardless of the time to kill in your game. You always want to be first to fire, right? You want to get the jump on the other player. But you should have to follow up that first to fire with precision fire and accuracy. If you spray half your bullets across the wall, you shouldn't be rewarded for a kill just because the time to kill is so low. That player should then be able to turn around, or maybe they even reacted soon enough to start to engage you while you are engaging them. They should be able to turn around and counter that because your accuracy, your precision was not on point. It wasn't where it needs to be. That's the biggest thing that could come from increasing the time to kill in Titanfall 2. Now, I would like to see them do it on a per weapon or per archetype basis. You know, it doesn't make sense to just say we're going to increase the health bar of all the players in the game. I don't think that's the necessary or the right way to do it. I think looking at the different weapons within the archetypes even and saying this weapon needs a longer time to kill than that weapon because of its current damage state, I think that would be the best route going forward, and that's something that the Division actually did. The Division looked at like all of its weapons, its high-end weapons, and it said, how can we decrease the time to kill? So they were looking to do the opposite with that game to make it feel more tactical, more rewarding, and more punishing for the players. So they started balancing out individual weapons by making them more powerful on both sides and making the player have less health, so on and so forth. So for example, maybe assault rifles like the R2 and the R1 will get a 1.5 times time to kill buff. So they'd take 1.5 times longer to kill. That may end up being 2 to 3 bullets, 1 to 2 bullet, you know, whatever that ended up equating to. The same could be for SMGs. Let's go ahead and paint a scenario, though, on both sides of the coin. Let's talk about how things usually work in Titanfall 2 right now and how they could work out in Titanfall 2 if we saw an increase in the time to kill. So right now, let's say that Dave's on the other team. Dave comes up to me with his R97, and he is first to fire. He's caught me off guard. I just finished cleaning up one of his teammates with my glorious Firestar throws. Dave comes around the corner, and he's like, it's Tony freaking Moo. I'm going to wipe this guy out with my R97. He's like, bzz, just breaks out the buzzsaw, right? He misses like 3/4 of his rounds, and I'm like, crap, I ended up dead anyways, though, right? He got this heavy spray on me. He was able to swap out his weapon or reload quick enough, and I'm like just trying to turn around and counter him, but he killed me too quickly, even though he missed like half of his rounds, right? So he was rewarded for being first to fire, even though his precision and his accuracy wasn't there. Like, I might have turned around in that situation and got a good solid spray on him, and maybe he's at like 1 health. He's just about to die, but it doesn't matter because he had first to fire, and even though he missed 50% of his rounds, he was still able to kill me because of the current length of the time to kill. So let's go to the future, the potential future of Titanfall 2, where the time to kill is now increased a little bit. And Dave can no longer get away with missing all those R97 shots. So he turns the corner and says, hey man, there's Tony Mo. Bzz, misses half of his shots, but this time, half of his shots, they're not enough to kill me. No, they're not. I turn around, and I'm already like, whoa, I slide into the corner, bounce off the wall. He was not prepared for that. He wasn't prepared for that epic failure of his aim and accuracy, and I just precision fire him down with my alternator, which also has an increased time to kill now, but it doesn't matter because I worked for it. I got the precision, I got the accuracy on Dave. He was caught out reloading now, he panicked, and he is now dead. Now, not every gunfight in Titanfall 2 works out to be a 1-to-1 duel situation, but most of them do. And however, it doesn't matter. This would still go ahead and modify 1 versus 3s, 1 versus 2. You wouldn't really have those instances where a player could flank 3 people and then just buzz all 3 of them down if one of them catches the flank and is able to turn around and counter that. Right now, you can hose down like 3 people in a room if you come up behind them, even if 1 or 2 of them spot you on the radar and try and counter, because the time to kill is just so short, you know? So increasing that time to kill, it's all about improving the core gunplay experience. It's all about extending it a little bit, and again, giving a little bit more to the players who work for that precision and that accuracy. Now, there is always the concern that this now makes the game too difficult for the average player, for the less than average player. But I just don't think that's something we can worry ourselves with. The majority of people left playing Titanfall 2, I think, are going to be more than happy to pick up a game in the future of Titanfall 2, recognize the time to kill is longer, and just have to work a little bit harder for their kills to say, oh wow, I wasn't really ever that accurate with the alternator. Now look, I really need to land all of these shots. You know, I can't just mow down 3 people with 1 magazine anymore. I can't just get 1 kill and miss half my shots anymore. You know, so much of that happens with the alternator especially. I see it all the time as someone who uses it pretty frequently, where you're like missing a bunch of rounds and then you're able to just focus in at the last second and land like 2 shots and you kill the guy with that last bullet. Too much of that goes on. Too much of me being rewarded for halfway through my engagement, remembering that I should be more precise than I was. Like, oh, there's half my bullets. Wait, if I just aim, get the kill. You know, I don't like that. I don't like being rewarded for that. My big focus going forward with Titanfall 2 is to find ways to suggest, to basically hope that Respawn looks for ways to improve the core gunplay experience, to make it more enjoyable, to make it more challenging, while also making it equally more rewarding. Right now, the core gunplay in Titanfall 2, to me, is not as good as it could be. It's not the game's strong point. Mobility, navigation, and diversity are the game's strong point. The gunplay, it isn't fit to sit on the same table as the rest of those, man. Once again, it's at the kids' table, it's eating chicken nuggets and ketchup, and everybody else is over there at the cool kids' table. They got chicken nuggets, but they got barbecue sauce, they got Szechuan sauce, man. They've got hand-cut fries. you know, that's where the time to kill needs to find itself to help improve the gunplay. Now, the other side of the coin with gunplay is, of course, aim assist, guys. You know, again, I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to make the game, like, unnecessarily difficult. I think, in fact, the core gunplay is unnecessarily easy. It doesn't need to be as just sort of squeeze the trigger and pull as it is. There needs to be more thought that goes into each and every one's trigger pull. You need to be considering burst firing, how many rounds you're going to miss, how many rounds you're going to hit. More of that needs to be worked into the game right now. So that's where aim assist, you know, the modification aim assist can assist in making the core gunplay better than it currently is. You know, combining that with the time to kill, to me, that would be a huge deal potentially. And I would at least like to see them put it to test. Put it in this PTF featured modes playlist thing they want to do, whatever they want to call it, and let us at least give it a go. You know, right now we can all sit here and we can all have our opinions, myself included. But until we actually get to see what it feels like, we won't really know if it is the best choice for the game going forward. I would more than happily eat my words if I played it and said, oh yeah, that doesn't work, guys. No, you're right. You were right all along. We gotta leave it where it is, you know? But I really do think there's a lot of benefits to it, and I'd love to at least see it test out, and I think anyone who's against it, you know, I'm sure you guys would like to at least play it, see how it feels for you. The thing I want to point out about aim assists, I think the main struggle, the main frustration that I have with aim assist right now is, again, it's making shooting too easy for us. And the biggest issue is the way that aim assist boosts our tracking in the game currently. So you can, for the sake of the discussion, we'll break aim assist down into two components. One is the slowdown. So the idea that your reticle, your crosshair, will be slowed down automatically for you when you reach the center of a target. This is to help you be more precise in each and every one of your shots. Tracking is the second part. Tracking is the reticle actually being pulled along the target as long as you are attempting to track the target yourself. Now, if you stop actually moving your reticle or you stop moving at all, it won't track as much. But as long as you're actively attempting to track that target, it's going to assist you. This is the portion of aim assist. This is the component that is currently too powerful in my opinion. Slowdown is very important. It's something that Halo uses a lot of in early days. Aim assist as a whole is important, but I think it's just overbaked in the game right now. I think the tracking is through the roof, and it means that you just get these situations on top of having a short time to kill where you just left trigger, mash the right trigger, and barely attempt to follow the target, and you get kills. Like, I don't want that. That's not rewarding. There's a reason I don't use rifles anymore, guys. I have no interest. Like, I just know that I'm getting that boost, and I find that to be unsatisfying. I find that portion of the gunplay to not be enjoyable. I'd rather use the alternator and just hip fire. At least that feels like it's giving me a little bit of a challenge. So that's the biggest issue with aim assist that I think they need to take a look at. That's the issue that I'd like to see at least tested and modified in the future. And again, this isn't something that is all of a sudden going to make the game unplayable for people at a lower skill level. You're just going to recognize that you have to work a little bit more for your shots. If anything, many of us out there would realize we're already pretty good shots and that this thing was more of a crutch that was preventing us from, you know, following the targets we wanted to follow. You see aim assist and the way it pulls you away from the target, it tracks grunts. Like, it's just a mess in game right now. I just want to see them look at it at the very least and find a way to make it less invasive. I guess that's the best way I can put it. Less invasive. And again, everything I'm saying today is for the sake of making the game better. You know, you can disagree with me, and I would love for that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinion, why you like these ideas, why you don't. More importantly, though, guys, I want to know what you would like to see in the first iteration of that public test server if it ever gets implemented into the game. What big changes to the core gameplay would you like to see Respawn tackle? Maybe you don't have the exact idea, but maybe there's a problem that you think exists in the game and you want to see them at least give us some sort of an alternative to it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get some really big discussion flowing on this. This is a community discussion to be had. So if you can't handle yourself and you start attacking people, just leave right now, because I will ghost ban you. Have a civil conversation with people. Disagree like civil human beings. State your opinion. State some positives and negatives just like I've done. And let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you guys so much. Last month was a great month. We're putting that money towards potential webcam upgrade for the stream, as well as some other things I want to upgrade for streaming and even for the YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much. If you're interested, become a patron. All the information you need is linked down in the pinned comment below. I do a massive, like, 30-minute behind-the-scenes video for all of my patrons each and every month. All this stuff looking at, like, my logic on YouTube, some how-to tutorial stuff even getting implemented into there. So go check it out if you feel like supporting the channel, additionally in a monetary way. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. And as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.